So we're going to cover a few different things today. We're going to start by thinking about why marketing is so important. We're then going to think about opportunities you could have and being brave when it comes to marketing. And then we'll also look at some strategies as well that you might want to put in place. So we're going to use some of these emojis to get started with, thinking about how confident you feel marketing your business right now. So we've got the option for not confident at all. That's completely fine. Whether it's that you've just started and you're not really feeling confident with it, right through to you feel okay with it, you're just looking for some new ideas. So we've got a few that feel okay, a few that aren't very confident, a few looking for some new ideas, and that's fine. So as we go through the session this evening as well, I know Matt said you can ask any questions in the chat box. There is no right or wrong way to do your marketing as a tutor. It's your business, and it's completely up to you how you run your business as well. So if someone has a question and it gets posted in the chat, that's absolutely fine. If you've got an answer you feel you could give them or some advice, that would be great. Feel free to share your own experiences too, because we can all learn from each other, and we'll have all had different experiences trying different things out as well. So why is marketing important? I think the main thing marketing does is it unlocks your business. So we've got some bullet points here. To get started, you need to do some marketing. Nobody is going to come to you for tuition if they don't know you exist. And they're not going to know you exist if you're not telling people. And marketing in its simplest form is spreading the word and telling people what you're doing. So one great thing that it can do for you is help you to find new students. So you're spreading the word. There are lots of different ways that you might do your marketing, which we will come on to, but the ultimate goal for you is to find those new students and build your business. Your marketing as well can also help to build your reputation. So if you've got a consistent brand, a consistent look, and actually you're sharing some really great ideas, people are going to see you and people are going to remember you. And whether they need a tutor at that point or whether it's something that they're thinking about in a couple of years' time, you've built your reputation through your marketing, and actually they've seen you, they recognize you already, and you're then the first person that they think of when it comes to marketing. When it comes to finding a tutor. So we've then got future proofing. And with future proofing, that's thinking about not just now with your marketing. So marketing goes really well, you end up with a full schedule and you've actually got no spaces left to tutor students. That's absolutely fantastic, but you don't want to take your foot off the gas. You don't want to stop marketing your business at this point, because we all know that things can change so quickly. You could go from having a full schedule 1 week to actually getting half of your students giving their notice and leaving you in the coming weeks. So keeping going with your marketing, even when you're full and you don't have any spaces, it allows you to be that future-proofed business. So as we said before, it might be planting the seeds for people who might be looking for a tutor at a different time. It might be keeping relevant in people's minds, or it might be a case of, for some tutors, building a waiting list and having those people that they might be falling back on. Another benefit of marketing can be giving you the opportunity to network with other tutors. I think we're all aware, especially if we're working online and not going out to students' houses or having students come to our house, and it can feel a little bit lonely sometimes to be a tutor. But actually, by marketing and putting yourself out there, you're going to encounter other tutors as well who might be doing the same thing as you, or they might be tutoring a different age group or a different subject. And building that network can really help you with your marketing. If you are a Key Stage 2 English tutor, but you can't really support children with their Key Stage 2 maths, there might be a child you tutor who's looking for a maths tutor. And actually, by building your network, you might be able to recommend a tutor to them, someone that you know through the marketing that you've done, through your professional network, who can support them. And that'll work the other way as well. So it might be that that tutor's recommending you. So having that marketing in place all of the time, keeping going with it, like I said, even when things are going really well, it shouldn't always just be a reactive panic, but keeping that marketing going consistently can really help you to build your reputation, build your brand, and have those solid foundations for your business. So there are lots of different ways that you can market your business. And first, we're going to look at face-to-face marketing opportunities. And I think for some people, these can feel more daunting than putting things online or on social media. So to market face-to-face, you need to get out in your local community. And it might be a smaller pool of people. You might just be attracting people who live close to you. But if you are tutoring face-to-face, I think marketing face-to-face is a really lovely way of doing things. Firstly, because it's an opportunity to meet potential customers, and you're actually seeing those potential customers and having a conversation with them, and having that bit of a personal relationship from the start. I know lots of tutors offer an initial session, a bit of a getting to know you session, but you've already got an idea of that family. You might not have met the child, but you might have met the parents and have an idea of actually whether they'll be the right fit for you, because not every family is the right fit for every tutor, and not every tutor is the right fit for every family. And that's a huge thing, to allow a family to see actually if they're going to work with you and if they're going to work with you long term. If you're seeing people face to face as well, you can showcase your resources, you can showcase what you do, and you can do this online as well. But if you're going to be tutoring face to face, it's really nice for people to see exactly what you do. It might be some of your physical resources. You might, depending where you are for this face-to-face marketing opportunity, you might be able to play some of the games or run some of the activities that you would do with students in your sessions. It also allows you to build links and relationships in your community. So this might be with community centres or libraries, or the places that you're doing this face-to-face marketing. It might not be that you're always present. It might be that you're going into a library and asking to leave them some leaflets, or asking if they can put something on their notice board, give some information out to the people that are attending the library. But it's that opportunity for you to get to know the people that are in your local community. And again, they might be running a small business themselves. And as we said, it can be lonely to be a tutor, but actually having a network of not just other tutors, but other business owners who understand some of the challenges you might be facing, especially if it's within your local area where you're going to be dealing with the same council, the same authorities. It's really nice to have those people that have your support. And then we've got to create a presence in your local area. So having people locally know who you are, having people locally have you as the first person they think of when they're wanting a tutor, knowing where to look and knowing where to find you. As we said on the previous slide, it's that future proofing, and having that presence will allow you to be memorable and that figure that everybody knows in the community, and build up that trust, even if people aren't looking for a tutor at that time. I have popped a couple of notes at the bottom here, which are things to think about with face-to-face marketing opportunities. So sometimes there might be a cost involved with these, and the cost can be more than marketing online. So this is something you might want to factor in, as well as the seasonality of it, especially if you're looking at things like summer fairs or school fairs or markets. These kinds of things might only happen at certain times of year, so they might not want to be the thing you rely on all year round. because if they're only happening at summer and at Christmas, you might then be missing some really good marketing opportunities around October when school reports have come out, or in January when children have gone back to school. So making sure that you've considered that, and I think having a mixture of marketing opportunities is the best approach to making sure you've got consistency and that you're able to do that all year round. So if you've tried some face-to-face marketing before, it would be great for people to share in the chat anywhere that they have marketed, or if it's something you're thinking of doing, maybe places that you're thinking of going, and we can have a little chat about those and see if anyone's got any recommendations or anything that they've tried that's worked really well. If you haven't tried marketing in a face-to-face capacity, and you've instead come to get some ideas, please don't worry about it. As you've just said, Jen, that don't worry if it's not something you've tried. As I said before, everyone's got their own way of marketing, and actually you can do what works for you. But yes, Caroline, we've got local shops, and again, that hits that building your network in the community, getting to know other people as well. Leaflet dropping from you, Tammy, yeah, and adding to school notice boards as well. Yeah, a lot of the time you probably already have relationships with the schools that are in your area. So really making the most of those relationships you already have in the community. I think that's a lovely idea as well, Katrina, about a Christmas fair and making bath bombs for your science tuition. And it's one of those really fun activities people will remember taking part in a bath bomb workshop. I definitely would do. And it makes you memorable to them. Their children have had fun working with you. And although your tuition may not always be making bath bombs and doing experiments like that, it gets you on that right foot. It gets people excited about working with you. Yeah, I think working with home learners in the area as well, we've had come through, and they're more likely to be around during the day. They might be out, they might have certain groups that they go to or activities, and being able to build the relationships there. There might be some kind of partnership you can have going. And I think, Olivia, you've hit the nail on the head really with how a lot of people will be feeling, that asking places like Costa if you can put a leaflet on their board, but you get nervous about advertising. And I think sometimes it's those nerves, it's that fear of doing it that puts you off. But one thing that I always like to remember is the worst they can say is no. They're not going to kick you out of the door. They're not going to all they will say is no, and you have to say no to people yourself sometimes as a tutor. And as much as we don't like saying no, it's surprising how often the answer actually is yes, especially if they've got an advertising board there. You might want to have a look at what else is already on it already. I know in lots of supermarkets they have those kinds of boards as well, and community notice boards, and actually you're doing something within the community, and they're often really interested in what other people are doing as well. So a few places that I've listed, we've spoken about some of them already, but we've got school fairs, local community fairs as well, community centres, which I know you've just put, Tammy, as well, about doing some leaflet posting there, and libraries. We've got cafes and coffee shops, local activities. So like we were saying about home learners or home educated children who might go into different activities during the day, maybe a soft play or an activity centre. We've then got local businesses and then market stalls as well. So some market areas will let you have a small stall there for a small time. But actually just trying to think outside the box is sometimes the most fun way to get your marketing across. But we've just shared in the chat a link to, we've got some top tips for marketing all around the year. And some of these are seasonal ideas just to help you with that thinking outside the box and looking at different places to give a go. So we're then going to move on to some online marketing opportunities. Now, online can be cheaper than working with face-to-face marketing opportunities. Lots of things like social media don't actually have a cost involved. So it's a way that you can really quickly and easily get an online presence and get your marketing started for your tuition business. So looking at social media, you can have your own channels. You could create a Facebook page, an Instagram account. Think about where your customers are. So think about who you're wanting to target, whether it's parents, whether you're wanting to get revision tips to students and them hear about you in that way. People of different ages are using different social media platforms sometimes. So think about where your customer is when you're thinking about what time you invest on your different channels. There's also lots of local groups on social media. So it might be for a certain postcode area, or it could be for a town or village that you live in. And those local groups are a nice place to share your marketing if they allow. Not all groups do allow advertising, so you want to check that you're abiding by group rules, otherwise you will probably be kicked out, and that doesn't reflect too well on you. But checking group rules and seeing what you can do. But also in local groups, particularly local parenting groups, you can build your reputation without directly marketing. So if you have an account for your own social media, your tutoring business, and after school reports come out, a parent is asking for some advice, they don't quite understand what the school report means, or there's a comment on the report about their child and they don't know how to support them. Sometimes the best option isn't to give the answers. It isn't to say, well, I'm a tutor, so I can help your child, but actually to tell that parent how they can support their child or break down what that means and just give a little bit of advice. And doing so in the comments won't take you long. You're not giving away a lot of your services, but actually they're seeing you as someone that's helpful, someone that's supportive, and you're sharing those ideas and you're sharing that support with these people. Again, if they need a tutor at a later date, it might be that they then remember you. They remember that you were there. They remember that you helped them out with that thing. Whether it was a question, it was something they didn't understand, and you've given them that reassurance that you are supportive, and that markets you as a tutor without you directly saying, I'm a tutor and I can help your child. Another place on social media is specific tutoring groups. There are lots of groups for tutors to refer to each other. As we said earlier about building your network, if you don't, if you get an inquiry for a subject or an age group that you don't cover, you can find another tutor that does, and that relationship can work both ways. But also, like I said, having those other supportive people around you, just to give those ideas, to share ideas, to see what other people are doing and what might work for you. There are also online marketplaces or online childcare websites which allow advertising, and putting a little advert on there, letting people know that you're there. A lot of these work by searching for a postcode, so seeing what's in your local area. And if you look something up, whether it's something you're looking for or if a parent is looking for a tutor, it's another way for you to be visible. And then local advertising sites and apps. Some of these are a little bit newer, but very specific to local areas. Things like I know people have had success with Bark and the Neighbourhood app, being able to share your services on there as well. And really just spreading the word as much as you can, sharing what you do and letting everybody know that you are there and you're there to help. Like we said, you don't want to give lots away for free, but sometimes just giving that a little bit of advice or those top tips can really help to cement you in the minds of the families that might potentially be looking for a tutor one day, even if they aren't right now. So I know one's just been shared in the chat. We've got childcare.co.uk there. But are there any other places that people have had really good success with sharing their business online? If so, feel free to pop them in the chat so that other people can get some inspiration from there too. Yeah, Facebook groups. There are so many of them as well, Jen. So you can, I'm sure you've shared in lots of groups in lots of different capacities as well. We've got WhatsApp, we've got local village groups. Yeah, like we said, if you're tutoring face-to-face or if you're in an area where there's lots of 11+ demand, for example, having that local knowledge is really important then to know the schools that children are applying to and have that understanding. So that's a really nice one. And it's great that you're getting loads of inquiries from those local village groups too. TikTok and YouTube as well. Yeah, I think lots of video content is doing really well right now. So having a play around with those things, and again, just not being afraid to give something a go. You know, put yourself out there, be confident, because a lot of the time it's in your own head that you feel like you can't do something, and then you give it a go and it does really well, and you wish you tried months ago, years ago, and it's just that fear of trying something new. So I think that's where being brave comes into it, and trying these new things, trying something you haven't before, can really pay off. So we are going to look a little bit more at social media marketing, just because this is one of the big ways that lots of tutors market their businesses. So whether you use social media for yourself in your personal life, or whether you don't use social media at all, using it as a business and using it for marketing can feel completely different as well. So the first thing you want to think about is what to post and when you're posting it. So you might want to make sure, again, like we said, you're thinking about what customers you're trying to reach. If you're trying to reach parents of children who are in year 6, who will be sitting SATs in May, you're going to want to think about what content you're posting that will specifically attract those and be interesting to them. So thinking about what you post. There are lots and lots of different things you can post. You could share tips, but I think one really nice thing to share quite regularly is a little bit about yourself as well. So as we mentioned right back at the start of this session, not every tutor is the right fit for every family, and not every family is the right fit for every tutor. But giving a bit of an insight to who you are and how your sessions run can really help a family to know whether you're the person that they want to work with. Thinking about when you post things as well is also really important. So firstly, the time of day. If you're posting things at 2 o'clock in the morning or scheduling them for 2 o'clock in the morning, they're probably going to be seen by less people. Similarly, if you're doing it at 3 o'clock when parents are on the school run, they might not be on their phone looking on social media. You want to think about when people have got time and when they're browsing through social media to be able to see your posts, because you could do the best post in the world, but if no one sees it, it's not going to have that impact that you'd hoped for. Thinking about where to post. So that could be, again, what social media you're using. So Olivia mentioned TikTok and YouTube, there's Facebook, there's Instagram. There are loads of different places that you can post, and you want to make sure that you're posting in the places that your target market is. We've just had a question come through in the chat about how often you should post. And again, that's entirely up to you. For me, I think the most important thing is to be consistent. You don't want to have one week where you post 3 times a day every day, and then you don't post anything for 2 weeks, and then suddenly you start posting again. You want to have some consistency with that. So some people might choose to have certain days. So on a Tuesday, for example, they share a tip every Tuesday, or it might be that they share a little bit about themselves every Wednesday, and following a routine, getting yourself into that. I think as you post more, you'll see when things are successful. So in terms of timing, you might see that something's done really well on a Tuesday evening. And if it's done well on a Tuesday evening, you might then want to schedule for that time in advance. So with lots of the social media platforms, you can actually schedule what you're posting. So you don't need to be sat there at the exact time you want to post it. You can have a look into scheduling, or you could even get external software to help you with your scheduling. And sometimes this will suggest popular times for you as well when your content has been engaged with in the past. For Facebook specifically, a question that comes up quite a lot is whether you're better to have a group or a page to work with your to reach your students and their families. And pages are generally wider reaching, but groups can be more specific in the information you give. So I think generally what lots of tutors do is have a page where they share lots of things, and a group might be for the students that have signed up with them, people that have committed to them. They might do something slightly different in that group. Although what you're doing in the group might be targeted at people that are already working with you and already paying for your services, it also is still marketing because it's part of the service you're offering. And one of the biggest things you do for your marketing is delivering great sessions every week with the students you work with. One thing we haven't mentioned in terms of marketing is not needing to do any, as your word of mouth is really strong. And that comes from delivering those great sessions regularly to the students that you work with. And if you can do that and add those things that make it really valuable to those families and to those students, then they're going to refer you on. We've already talked about channels and using that group to build a community, and then creating your posts as well. So thinking about what your posts look like. If you've got a logo, if you've got some colours that you use, again, trying to have that consistency so that if someone sees one of your posts shared in a group or shared on a different platform, they'll instantly recognise that it's you as a tutor, it's your brand, and it's something that they've engaged with before. And having that opportunity to recognise you, again, it's that making you memorable, it's making you someone that they think back to when they're looking for a new tutor or a tutor to cover something with them. Another thing that can help with your timing and what to post and when is planning it in advance, especially if it's something that feels very new and very daunting to you. Having a bit of a timetable, having a plan written down. It might be that you do it on a spreadsheet or in a notebook, somewhere that you want to have that written. What you can do is write out what you're going to post and when. And it might be that you've got lots of pictures of your session preparation, the resources you've used, maybe students sharing some of their work, and being able to share those or sharing tips, knowing what you want to share in advance takes away that panic of thinking, oh my gosh, I've not posted anything for 3 days and now I need to find something. Having that plan helps you plan your timing for your marketing, for creating your posts, and making sure that you're getting that consistency. So social media, as I said, is very popular, but has anyone had any posts that have done really well or have been successful for them? As long as you've got consent from the parents to have those pictures of children are in them, and making sure you've got those permissions. But actually, those people are all new people that you could be reaching. So it's really great to have that. And I really love the idea of a highlight of the week as well. For the parents that are working with you, seeing their child in a highlight of the week video is just really lovely for them to have that moment of celebration and that moment of reward for their children. Jen, you've put your first Facebook post as your most successful. So I don't know if there was something specific you did with that first post, or sometimes just because it is your first post and people are excited to see that there's something new and something different. Whether it is that, you know, that you've got something new again, you're sharing something exciting. I think people like those exciting updates, don't they, as well? So perfect. Let me have a look. We've got a few here. We've got weekly ideas that parents can do themselves with their children as well. I think that's a great idea, especially in half term, or if people have got that bit of time and they want to think about how they can support their children. Again, it might not be, they might not even work with you as a tutor, but it's building that trust, building that relationship, that you're offering that advice to the wider community. Photos of students working in your setting as well. I think similarly, as Tammy was just saying, it works well in that the families you work with enjoy seeing those pictures, and they might share them then, and they're happy to share them with their network, and that then spreads the word from you. And it's lovely as well for prospective families to see how your setting works. So they're getting a little bit of an insight to what their own child might experience if they sign up with you as a tutor. And yeah, top tip posts for GCSE maths and science as well. I think they work well in lots of different ways, Olivia, because it's it might be that the students themselves are accessing those to get those top tips, or if it's been quite a long time since the parents themselves did their GCSEs, they might not know some of the methods or some of the expectations that are there for their children as well. So being able to see those. We've got a question as well of, do we get permission when we're posting pictures of students or student names? I would always say to get permission from parents, yeah, so they know. There are ways that you could share a picture without that child being in it, or maybe share some of their work and just use initials, but make sure that if you are sharing any pictures of any children, you've got that permission of them as well. Yeah, and I think it is similar to with schools, isn't it? Lots of schools share images of children's work or the children at work, but similarly would have that permission from parents as well, to be able to share that on social media. Lovely. So that is everything that we had planned to discuss in the session this evening. A little bit of a whistle-stop tour of marketing.